I believe we are live. Welcome everyone to Tuesdays Together Tuesdays for the Elevating Live Conversation Show. And today I am thrilled to have my guest. One reason is I know her and I could just talk like crazy for hours, but I'm really thrilled for her expertise. And Sheri is a CEO and coach at the Dash Mindset. And in a moment, I'm going to have her talk more about her history and why she's doing what she's doing. But before you do that, Sheri, I want to remind people who are listening in, comment below. Tell us where you're coming from, where you're listening in from. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions why Sheri's sharing her expertise, please type them in the comments and we'll be sure to get those answered for you in our live today. Otherwise, we will come back and answer them on the replay. But Sheri has written something in her bio that just struck me. And this is where I want to ask you now, Sheri, to start off with, if you may, is you write, life is made of two dates and a dash. And Sheri encourages people to live their dash to the fullest. Now, that amazing line, and I just want you to elaborate on that more. Mm-hmm. Two dates and a dash.
It's actually based on a poem that I did not write. I'm far from a poet, but there is a poem called The Dash, and it's all about living that dash between your birth date and your death date. And I had actually not heard about it until my niece told me about it. She's actually 25 right now, so she's wise beyond her years, especially because she told me about it when she was probably 21 or so. But I just loved it when it was something my niece had mentioned, because my husband and I are big travelers. So COVID was especially a hard time for us. But my husband had called, my niece was with me. My husband called and said, hey, do you want to go to Iceland for $200? Because he found super cheap tickets for $200 round trip. And I said, yeah, I'm in. And that's usually how our travels go. It's based upon, cheap flights that he finds. And my niece was with me and I said, hey, do you want to go to Iceland for $200? And her response was, yeah, gotta live my dash. And I thought, what? I'm not sure what you're talking about, but okay. So she's in, we're going to Iceland. So I hung up, asked her to expand on that. And this was something that a boss of hers had shared with her. Just that concept. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is kind of how I have been thinking about life my entire life. I just didn't have words around it. And really that is what we have. We have, just the dash. That is supposed to represent every moment that we're on this earth. And it's otherwise, the two dates that are taking up most of the space on our tombstone. So we have a very short time here and we don't know how long it's going to be. And I know that sounds like a bit of a downer, but really it's inevitable for all of us. So we might as well make the most of it while we can.
I love that story. And I love that reminder. Like, I don't think it's a down reminder. I think it's an important reminder of, we have a choice with the quality of life that we want to create, or to be present, right, to what's alive in this moment. And, tapping more into our topic today, right, around awareness, around imperfection and the success in that, whether that's personally or professionally. But before we go into those topics, we're having a bit of technical difficulty, so so I'm going to be finagling some stuff on my end just to get that rolling. But in the meantime, I want you to would you share more about your life, as a CEO in coaching, relationship management, and bridging, as you say, the cultural and style differences for the past 20 years, and how you help people to finally live a life of their own rather than what other people maybe expect of them.
Absolutely. So I grew up knowing that at some point I was going to go to college. I was going to do all the things you're supposed to do. I was going to go to college. I was super organized even as a kid, maybe a little OCD even, especially, for a child, I suppose. But so I took an accounting course in high school, really liked it because that's super organized. And my teacher was funny. And so I thought, okay, well, I guess accounting it is. So went to college, went into accounting and finance. And I always kind of felt like, now looking back in retrospect, everything is clear, but like there was kind of a checklist of things from which we could choose. What are you going to be when you grow up? And it was, okay, accountant, banker, doctor, veterinarian, engineer. My brothers were both engineers, and I didn't like science, and I was organized, so accounting seemed obvious to me. And so I went through college, thought I was going to be a partner at a public accounting firm because that's, what you do. And I started out in public accounting knowing it was going to be a lot of hours because that's just well known. But I was not enjoying it and thought, is this the rest of my life? Is this what my life is going to look like? Is just, you graduate with the intent of becoming something, and then you do. And I just kind of felt like I was tolerating life. Like I was just trying to survive and looking forward to vacation. And so I did leave public accounting after a couple of years. And then I stayed in corporate. I didn't really know what else I could do. And I know that seems kind of silly, but it's just, I was in my world. And so I was at the same company for 19 years after I left public accounting. And it was an amazing company. Loved all the relationships I created. Really enjoyed all the positions I had. But I found myself just constantly looking forward to the weekend, constantly looking forward to vacation. Dreading vacation a little bit because I knew how much preparation was required to get ready for vacation, and then, dreading the return. And I didn't hate my work at any point. Again, really liked the people. I just kind of thought, so this is it. This is what life looks like now. And throughout that, though, I thought, okay, there's got to be more here. And, I got married, I have kids, and have so many things to be grateful for. And I'm really loving a lot of things about life. But in total, I felt like, okay, what's the impact I'm making here? It doesn't really feel like I'm making much of one. Surely I am, with my husband and my kids, but I knew that if I were to leave the corporate world, the company was going to go on. It wasn't like I was making that much of an impact in, that the company was going to go under if I were to leave, yet so much of my life was devoted to that.
And, Sheri, I want to jump in. Can I just jump in? Because you're saying some really important stuff. Like I'm just taking notes, and you're hitting some keywords that I know people can relate to. And I want to just, as you talk, if that's okay, I just want to pull in those words. You're talking about surviving and tolerating. And I know the work that you do today is supporting people to shift that mindset.
Right.
So they can move beyond surviving and just tolerating. And your aha moment of, how am I impacting? Like, how am I making an impact? And you're doing all of this, like looking at your business, how am I impacting, wanting to move beyond surviving and tolerating as a wife, a mother,
yes,
someone working in the corporate world, and then because I'm sharing these points because this can be a huge, scary zone for people, or how I would like to call it is a huge leap of faith. And so share with us more of how you took this from your own personal world, left the corporate world, and how are you helping people develop greater awareness around this and taking imperfect action? Can you tell us about that?
I was just feeling kind of stuck, and I felt like I knew it was up to me to figure it out, but I didn't know how. And I hated that feeling. And I've always been an accountable person. In fact, I would go to people and say, why is it that I'm working so many hours? What is it about me that's causing me to work so many hours? And people would say, oh, it's because we know you're going to get it done and because you work well on these kinds of projects. And so it felt like I was constantly kind of excusing it due to whatever project I was on. But I knew in the back of my mind, okay, it's about me, because it doesn't matter where I go. It doesn't matter what company I'm at, what role I'm in. It's about me. Only I can change this. And so my leap of faith was actually investing in my own coach, something that for the first time I made an investment on my own without working through my company, because I always just kind of, as empowered as I felt and as much control as I felt like I had, I wasn't really taking control of my life. I was still kind of feeling like, well, but based on the company I'm at, here's what I have to do. And so when I invested in a coach myself and recognized, oh, wait, I need to look at my whole life, not just what I'm doing in the company. My whole world shifted. And working with a coach and just shifting my mindset allowed me to see, oh, wait, I do have other options. And I don't need to be in the corporate environment. And there's nothing wrong with the corporate environment. It just, I recognized it wasn't meeting my needs. Yeah. And I wasn't feeling as if I was making the impact I could make. I was loving certain things about my job, but then I realized, oh, wait, I could do the things I love all the time. It doesn't have to be a small slice of what I do. So I had decided that I was going to start my own coaching business. I didn't know how. I knew, well, first of all, I knew I made the decision to leave my job. I didn't know how or when. Then I decided I was going to start my own coaching business. Again, didn't know how. And then the stars aligned and my role was, I was laid off, basically. My role was eliminated and I was ecstatic, which I know sounds really crazy.
So Sheri, so again, I just want to pull into you sharing again some really valuable information. Is you questioned, like I'm hearing, the world, it opened up for you by being laid off, but you created that direction. And I'm going to bring this in because our community here at Safe, Seen, and Confident is about being able to identify your needs.
Right.
And knowing that your needs are important, and how can you create an environment and relationships that match your needs. And so I'm hearing you said that statement is questioning, like, is this meeting my needs? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I just want the audience, the viewers, to hear that, because someone who worked in corporate successfully, who now works as a CEO and coach and mentors, your clients mm-hmm. on this, sounds like to me one of your pivotal beginning questions of what are my needs and where are they going to get met?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I recognized through all of that I also wasn't meeting the needs of the people I was in relationships with, because my kids' needs certainly weren't being met. I was feeling like, oh, I'm present with them because I was physically present. But I found myself, there were nights, when I would be tucking them into bed thinking, okay, we got to do a short book tonight because I need to work some more, or, I'm just exhausted or whatever. I wasn't meeting my husband's needs because it was, so how late are you going to be working tonight? And I just wasn't fully present with anyone. And so I recognized that that's by me staying in this stable environment, what I thought to be a stable environment, really wasn't benefiting anyone. It wasn't benefiting me, nor was it benefiting my kids, my friends, because a lot of times when I'd be in conversation with them, I would be, kind of seeking help and guidance, thinking, okay, almost getting validation that, yeah, this is the way life is, because so many of us think that, well, this is the way life is. And then we'll all look forward to retirement or vacation or weekends or whatever. So I felt like it was just sucking the life out of me and everyone around me, which is just not the point of being here. So
beautiful. So what I just took away from part of what you shared is how you had the ability to look at the whole, your whole life. Like it wasn't that your work was separate from your personal life or for your health life. Is that you actually took the time to look at your whole life, to recognize when your needs weren't met, it was impacting your relationships and the needs of your loved ones because you weren't sourced enough to actually meet them in that place. And so thank you for sharing that. And I just, again, repeating that for our listeners, because I know a lot of people in our community are entrepreneurs. A lot of people are parents, or, they're working and they're trying to find that, the equilibrium, the equanimity, like that harmonious point where they can come together with their work life, their passions, and their personal relationships. So on that, I want to shift notes a little bit to go into really more of the topic that we're here for today, is around how because I want people to know what you do. I want people to really get some good tips from you today. Is where is the importance today in your work working with clients? How do you help them develop awareness? What would you say to somebody who they're an entrepreneur, or they're on that line of wanting to switch to be an entrepreneur, someone that you work with, they're needing to develop awareness, they're scared to take action because they have this need to be perfect? What would you tell them?
It was fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me now looking back, because for years I was just nonstop. I was just on the move all the time, busy, busy, busy. And I just felt like I was striving to get everything done, knowing that it wasn't going to get done. Yet I couldn't make it stop. I mean, it's not like an inbox is suddenly just people are going to stop sending you emails, or laundry's suddenly going to be done because the clothes you're wearing are dirty, right? It's just, I felt like, what exactly am I trying to achieve here? And I recognized while working with someone else, because we can't see what's right in front of us all the time, right? It takes someone else to offer a different perspective, that I was really fearful of not getting it all done. I was fearful of, letting people down. And so I was just constantly striving for perfection, which it's not attainable. Perfection doesn't exist. So I was never going to achieve what I was trying to achieve. And so I was living in fear. And I've never considered myself really a fearful person. I'm not a worrier. So the idea of living in fear, had someone just said that to me, I would have thought, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not a fearful person. But it helped me realize that's exactly what I was doing. And that's not a good way to live. To just simply be doing what you're doing because you're fearful that if you don't, something's going to go wrong. So I help people understand that, think through, okay, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, really, if you are to, let's say you do just quit your job, and I'm not suggesting that quitting your job and being an entrepreneur is for everyone at all, but what's the worst that could happen? Really? You don't like it and you go back. I mean, really. And I really, the first step that I really encourage people to take is to just step back and self-reflect. That is something I had never really done. And I always felt like I was a relatively self-aware person, because when it comes to personality tests and those self-assessments, I eat that stuff up. So I felt like I was pretty self-aware, but there were some gaps there that I wasn't aware of. And I always took it to a certain degree, but never beyond that. So when I say that, I had heard for years and years, you should journal. And journaling is really helpful to help, for recognizing patterns in your behavior, all those things. And it just seemed so woo-woo to me. It seemed like a waste of time because it wasn't, crossing something off my to-do list. It was, I just didn't really understand the point. And because it seemed like a worthless activity to me, I just never did it. And then I reached the point where I realized, okay, what I'm doing isn't working. This isn't the life I want to live. So I need to try something new. And I did.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that you're doing a lot of self-inquiry with your clients, right? And so that's what you did with yourself, self-inquiry. Step back, take a pause, ask yourself some important questions, reflect on your life. Um, can you tell us more of the steps you take clients through? Like what do you do when you work with someone who is having challenges with imperfect action?
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Because I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so that was really hard for me. It's really a matter of thinking through, okay, what ultimately are you trying to achieve, and helping people recognize that you're trying to achieve something that isn't achievable. You're never, you can't attain perfection. So, I take people through a series of assessments too, depending upon the client and their unique needs. I determine what sort of assessments to take because, Strengths Finder is a big one. And I know a lot of people are familiar with that, but really helping people understand, okay, what are your strengths, and focusing on those. Because I know a lot of my life, I was thinking through, what weaknesses I needed to work on. And I do believe, I'm not saying that weaknesses should simply be ignored, but I was always trying to get better at those things and trying to achieve the unachievable, rather than really just stepping back and thinking through, okay, these are my strengths. I should focus on these all the time, not just when it's nice, not just, during extra hours, but I should really just, it's okay to focus on those strengths and enjoy what I'm doing. I don't have to do all the other stuff just because maybe I'm good at it, or it seems like a good fit from someone else's perspective. So it's really a matter of stepping back, doing some assessments, self-reflecting, understanding what you really are trying to achieve, and if it's really attainable, and understanding what the gap is between where you are and where you want to be.
Yeah. I love what you said about how it's so common to work on what's not working. Like we're so taught, and I know it's familiar in the community here, is it's so taught, like we can be so hard on ourselves. We can be like, oh, I have to improve, all the self-improvement, right? And self-growth and all this stuff. But where do we actually stop to focus on what our strengths are? I often say, what's working for us? What's working for you in this work? So I love how you're pivoting their mindsets, their consciousness to their strengths. Because then what I'm hearing is, as a mindset coach, is you can then help them develop more of those strengths of, I know doesn't it feel amazing to the body, to our minds, to our productivity, when we're like, oh my God, I can do this, I can do that, right? It changes our whole presence. Would you agree?
It absolutely does. And it almost feels like there's some days now when I almost feel like I'm cheating a little bit, because it's just, I'm operating in my genius zone now. And it's just, I'm working to my strengths. I'm not trying to do all the other stuff too. Now, one part about being an entrepreneur that has been less than ideal for me is figuring out the IT stuff and those kinds of things, that you have to work through. But because I'm not an IT person, but when I'm really operating in my zone, it almost feels like there's kind of a blur between personal and professional, because I'm just enjoying it so much. And that's not how the normal world works.
To enjoy what you're doing.
Right.
Yes. There's something wrong if I'm enjoying it, or I'm not working hard enough.
Yes.
If I actually feel good.
Exactly.
Can you share more with the audience about the genius zone? Because when I think of it, it's what you just said. Like I feel better in my body. My nervous system is regulated. There's more productivity. But tell us more about how you work with helping people access their genius zone. Tell us more about that.
It's funny because sometimes it just takes hearing it from someone different, because I had heard in my corporate life certain things that I was doing really well. And, I would say something that just kind of naturally came out, just, whatever thought came to mind, and someone would say, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I would just think, what's amazing about that? Because when something just flows out of you, generally we feel like, well, everyone else has that same thought. And that's not the case. And it really took me recognizing that the stuff that was flowing out of me and people would comment on, that it wasn't just, there was a reason for that. And I could actually put it to good use. And I lost track of your question, Zipporah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was in an interview earlier today, and I totally went blank. You're like, oh, forgot what I was talking about.
Answering.
So tell us. So I'm hearing your personal story with getting into your genius zone. I'm wanting to. We want to get into a segment now. We're sharing more tips and how-tos. So how do you support people? Right. I want people to really know what you're doing in the world. Support people in accessing their genius zone, having the ability to stay in it more, longer periods. And what the hell does that even mean, genius zone?
Right. Exactly. It's really, it's one of my strengths has been to see the best in people, which, that's one of those things that I just thought, well, doesn't everybody do that? And, so it's something that in the corporate world, I was good at working in teams and saying, okay, this is something that you do well, and this is something you do well. And, I don't know why I do that well, but it's something that just came naturally to me. And I didn't really recognize it even when people would point it out to me. And so when I started recognizing, oh, I'm already coaching people in this world, it's just, I'm not considered a coach. Now, when I work with other people, I'm able to say, okay, just hearing their stories, just hearing them talk about the things they enjoy, the things they don't enjoy, what they enjoyed when they were children, what it is that they like in their personal life as well. Because so often we're so focused on work settings, what we hate about our work setting. A lot of times when people are just telling me about what they hate, then I just start asking questions. It's just a matter of asking questions. And some of it just kind of flows out of them naturally. They don't even say anything. It's just, oh, well, I recognize you're particularly good with people, or, you seem to, assail something you've considered. And I don't want to, I'm careful not to focus too much on, particular roles I think someone will be a fit for, because I really encourage people to think outside of the box, not just try to find a job, but think about, okay, what is it that you naturally do well? And how can you serve people? How can you offer that gift to the world in a way that would be rewarding for you and for others? And then think through, okay, what do some of those positions look like? I mean, if you like dogs, growing up, I liked cats. So I thought, well, maybe I should be a vet because I liked cats, right? There are so many other things that one can do if they like cats, but it was just kind of I almost felt like it was a matching game. Mm-hmm. And so I encourage people not to think about it as a checklist of options, a checklist of jobs to get a paycheck, but what is it that they naturally do well? What is their gift that they really are meant to share with the world? And then think through, okay, what are some options for you? How could you potentially do that?
Yeah. So you're helping them develop greater awareness of all of this, greater awareness of knowing who they are. This is what I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. They're developing greater awareness of who they are, what they love, what they're passionate about, what they feel good, where they feel, where their whole body feels good and what they're doing. If you could give our audience right now 3 tips around living in greater awareness and taking imperfect action, or just 3 tips on, changing their relationship to what they do in their life. Could you offer 3 basic tips for them?
Mm-hmm. Taking imperfect action was a challenge for me initially. And I actually learned from some of my personal experiences in life, because one thing that I used to be wound so tight that, I mean, I'd go get a massage and I'd be told, okay, if you could be here for another 4 hours, maybe you'd actually relax. I was just never a naturally relaxed person. And I wouldn't say I'm super relaxed now, but the one time when I was able to relax was when we traveled. You could just drop me in a foreign country and I'll just figure it out. That's, for whatever reason, I found myself relaxing in those circumstances and loving to problem solve and figure it out. But I recognized at one point that was the only time I was operating that way. When it came to work, I was planning and thinking and wanted to have it all figured out before I actually took action. And I'm recognizing that somewhere along the way, I realized that nobody has it all figured out. That the way you figure it out is by taking action, and it's not going to be perfect, and you just need to be okay with that. And so I'm messing up stuff all the time, and that's how I learn. And I could have spent, 2 years reading about coaching and reading about starting a business and all the tech involved and all of those things. But, that would have been 2 years of my life gone. And I feel like there are just so many people that think, oh, I don't know how to do that, so I won't. In fact, years ago, my husband has reminded me of this. He told me that he thought I should be a coach. And my initial response was, well, I don't know how would I do that? Because I'm thinking, all the things you have to do. You have to set up a company, all those things. And that was getting in my way. But, if he says, hey, want to go to Iceland? I don't ask, well, how would we do that? I just say, okay. So I realized I can apply those same guidelines or lack of guidelines into the rest of my life too. And it's just made it so much easier.
Yeah, I love that. So you're I'm hearing you say, just if you have something you desire or a hit or gut response to doing something, you learn by taking that first step. Yep. You learn by taking action. So as we prepare to close our live today, I want to know where people can find you. We will share the links in the comments, but if you can share with people where's the best place you want them to come and look for you if they want to learn about working with you, or if they just want to join and hear more of your content.
I would love to have people in our group, and it's something I started relatively recently. So I'm doing more live training and just tips on how to take imperfect action. Trying to share some tips, all the things that I learned over several years, trying to condense that into little bite-sized pieces for people. So my Facebook community is Be the CEO of Your Career and Life. Great. And all my things are the Dash Mindset. So my email is SheriZ@thedashmindset.com. My website is thedashmindset.com. But really where my most recent focus has been in the Facebook group. So just love to hear from other people, because we all, not everybody should be an entrepreneur. Not everyone should not be in corporate. We all have a unique journey, and it's a matter of just stepping back and recognizing what that looks like for us and taking imperfect action to get it.
I love that. And we will share Sheri's links, her information to her group in the comments as well on our replay. So just pay attention to that and tune in. And I just want to thank you, Sheri, for joining us today, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your personal story and what you learned through that, because I know so many people can relate to that story, and encouraging people to just take action, to learn through action, and to realize that, those listening in, that your life is your life. And the more that you're fulfilled in your needs and living your passions, the more your loved ones are going to receive. And that's what I received out of hearing your story today, Sheri. So thank you for being here. Thank you to all of you listening in. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to seeing you next time. And thank you again, Sheri, for being with us.
Thank you, Zupara. I had so much fun, as always.